Welcome to this track guide for the Laguna Seca circuit in the iRacing Formula 3 Fixed Setup Series. Lap 1 is just a quick overview before we go into a bit more detail on lap 2. So important to get a good exit out of the final corner, don't get too much oversteer on that green AstroTurf. And through the first couple of kinks here, just take the shortest possible line really before running wide onto the concrete as you approach turn 1. Braking just after this white line and then make 2 apexes. There's the first one, run a little wide, and there's the second apex. You're full throttle before you even hit that. Then transition over to the left hand side, just a touch of the brakes to get the nose in, straight back to full throttle before the next corner. This one is a little bit tricky. You're going to lift 2/3 of the way off. Look at the green line there on the telemetry. We don't get all the way off the throttle, and then it's immediately back to flat out before we brake at the number 2 marker board. We're getting the car close to the curb. Don't have to get on it as long as you're full throttle early, because this is an uphill section. We need that power very, very early. Now thread the needle here. Hold your breath. We just kissed the curb. Don't run quite as wide as I do there. I was very lucky not to get dragged off onto the sand. And then brake as you crest the hill here, and then get the nose turned in immediately to full throttle as soon as you're facing the right way. Transition over to the right hand side and keep it absolutely flat out through this left-hander as long as you make the apex. Now be careful of the curb on the left, it will drag you off the track, but use the curb on the right in the penultimate corner. And then across to the right hand side, our braking point is the number 2 board. Trail the brakes up to the apex, then straight back to full throttle, watching that you don't run too wide onto the green AstroTurf. And that is our first lap. Join me for lap 2 where we go into a little bit more detail. So, on to the second lap then, a little bit more detail this time. Important to get a good exit without getting too much oversteer on the green AstroTurf out in the final corner. Just take a pretty short line through these first couple of kinks, and then you're trying to run as wide as possible on the approach to turn 1, braking at this white line, and then using the full width of the concrete that you can get away with without getting an off track. Then you want to just bleed wide in the middle of turn 1, effectively take 2 apexes, there's the second one, and full throttle before you get to it. Then move the car all the way over to the left. We're just going to brake gently for this one, midway along this curb, then back to full throttle nice and early, around about the red sausage curve in the middle, using all the track on the exit. Now this next right hand is very fast, it's not even a full lift. You can see we're just 2/3 of the way off the throttle with the warm tyres, and then absolutely full throttle down to the next corner. We want to open it up as much as we can, braking at the number 2 marker board, and just trailing the brakes to keep some weight over the nose. I just missed the curb, but the curb doesn't have to be used in that instance, as long as you're back to full throttle early and facing out the corner correctly. Hold your breath for this one. We're going to just lift off and then immediately back on the throttle as long as you hit the apex. I run slightly wide here. Now be careful of this. I'd get away with it, but you want to be a couple of inches further to the left there, just so you don't get dragged off the track by the curb. And then we're going to brake just as we crest the hill here. So before the number 3 marker board, we're starting to brake, staying on the brakes initially, and then once the nose is turned in, immediately back to full throttle down the hill, taking a nice short line, and then we're getting across to the right hand side, ready to take this left-hander at full throttle as long as you meet the apex at this angle. If you're any wider, you're going to run wide on the exit, which is bad. Now avoid the curb on the left here, it drags you off, it's off camber, so get close to it without using it, and then full throttle early for the penultimate corner. We're going to brake and trail the brakes up to the apex of this final corner. You can see, look at the red line here, you see how the brakes have stayed on until the apex, and then straight to full throttle on the exit, and you can see we're just keeping 2 tyres on the tarmac and not using too much AstroTurf. And that is my lap guide for Laguna Seca. I hope that was useful, guys. Join me for the next track. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to click like and subscribe.